welcome to another edition of What the Fuck Happenings Here Was in Mindom, or something like that. Beginnings are even rough. Anyway, I was going to talk about consent. One of the basic arguments of living a decent or ethical life is not imposing yourself on others. Other feeling things that are going to be consequentially affected by your behavior. Now, I don't ask for consent, in the sense that I don't ask your permission for you to voluntarily watch these videos. But in a sense, obviously, you've given your consent by being a participant on Earth, and you know that you're really in control. You can hit the off button anytime you want to. You can not show up to watch the video. So, in a sense, I have asked your consent. Your consent has been implicit. So, everything we do does affect other people. You can't, butterfly wing kind of argument, butterflies are causing hurricanes, maybe farting is, who knows. It all affects, and so some stuff you just can't control. You're going to impose, and it just doesn't, it's not your fault. Nothing you can do about it and still live. But obviously people have notions of, yes, I don't want to run jaywalkers over on the street. I don't want to do lots of things that, are within my rights, but they're unnecessary punishments or unnecessary trauma. So let's see what else. So it's just basic to existing is trying to have an unmessy footprint, not to recklessly be stepping in other people's wet cement. Hey, that's a good one. Replaced a couple of pieces of the sidewalk this week, and so, wet cement. It's funny how life does just same old you in a kind of a way. I mean, you could just see it when you're looking for it. How everything is connected to everything. That I can't have what I'm saying is completely dependent on sort of what happened in the last 2 weeks in terms of what analogies are easy to grab, and what stuff my brain composes is usually made out of the leftovers that are right on the counter. My brain doesn't go to the refrigerator very often for the old stuff. Even that analogy probably has to do with thinking about refrigerators for some reason, because there's too much stuff in the refrigerator or some other kind of connected thought. And all these connected thoughts are something people just haven't paid any attention to, and how controlling that is as part of our stupid existences. So anyway, lots of bullshit on consent that's just completely, the subject is apparently in pop culture sort of owned by sexual consent, and barely. People have to be told it's not good to rape people. It's not good to blow your nose on their shirt while they're sleeping, which is pretty much the same thing as, well, it's not even the same thing, right? I mean, rape wouldn't be so bad if all you did when you rape somebody is blew your penis on their shirt. Well, it would still be bad, right? It'd be horribly rude. Civilized humans should figure out I shouldn't do that to somebody else. So what's this, we have to have a big debate. YouTube has to be dominated, the pop culture, by this easy question. Oh, is it okay to rape? Because that's all it really is, right? I mean, if I'm going to do something to somebody without consent sexually, that's pretty impositional, and it's pretty obvious we really don't have a right to impose. And so, this is a complex argument. No, it's fucking so simple an argument, and the fact that this is a challenge for the human race is the whole point of even having phrases like idiocracy. It just demonstrates that most humans are fucking beneath chimpanzees. I mean, chimpanzees might be able to figure it out. Might. So it's just, hopeless. So, that was going to be my subject, and then who pops up in, making a retarded video, but the retarded Piro. So he makes a 2 minutes and 3-second video on the subject of antinatalism, as if he's demonstrating some valid argument, and he's using me as example. So he references me in another video where he complains that somehow I called too many people pedophiles or something, when clearly I was just using the joke, it's clearly a joke, of accusing somebody of pedophile just to demonstrate how easy it is to make accusations. People make all these accusations on the internet, and it's really easy to do. So I'm just demonstrating to somebody who directly makes accusations to me how easy it is for me just to profile them and make accusations about them. And so he thinks, oh, that's just too much. I can't handle that. You can't handle anything meaningful. And that's sort of my whole argument. He's the asshole, reckless glibite in the china shop. You can't take him anywhere, because he will just make a fucking mess. These silly optimists, they probably shouldn't call them optimists, because that's not really what they are. Okay, they lack any rational risk aversion and any sense of not imposing, and they're just reckless. They're unthoughtful, reckless, and incredibly arrogant, like they think they have mastered something and that they have something called enlightenment, when they're dumb as dog poo. Alright, and smelly and all the other stuff that goes with being dog poo. Wormy.
Alright, so this is a real quick little episode here. Now,
yeah, a quick, useless, trite pile of shit mush that serves no purpose, right? I mean, this is what ruins philosophical conversation, is these trivial crap, bullshit, silly, irrelevant arguments. And that's the best this asshole can do. Clearly. Has a philosophy degree. So again, blue-collar philosophy. The only one you could trust. These idiots who went to college and read their Kant and their Nietzsche. So full of shit.
Many of you will know who In Mendham is. If you don't,
In Mendham. In Mendham. In Mendham.
Mendham is
in English.
A sort of a cynical guy.
Cynical guy. So he's got 10 viewers, and he's sitting there explaining who In Mendham is. It's pretty fucking funny. Alright, so that's the casual profile. A cynical guy. And why is he cynical? Oh, it's because he's incredibly thoughtful. He spent some time thinking about what it is to be alive and found it to be, oh my God, this is terrible. I mean, every institution we have is raping somebody, even the ones, again, this is a guy who copped out on being a vegetarian with bullshit, irrational nonsense that somehow, it's too much trouble and I can't endure any inconvenience. He thinks his sperm decided to have a child, not him. What?
Lives somewhere in New Jersey, and he has a
northern New Jersey, let's say, or the upper half of New Jersey. The lower half is the one they make fun of. Southern Jersey, South Jersey, and North Jersey. Very different places, really.
A bunch of issues over the years. The biggest one he was known for would be antinatalism, or his version, which is ephilism.
I don't know. Yes, maybe, possibly. That's possibly, but I've also opined on many subjects in a quite competent manner.
Which is basically anti-life.
Yeah, just recognizing that there's nothing to be pro-life about. I mean, it's meat grinder. totally futile. As you get better at living, you get less likely to be alive. I mean, your odds of dying go up as your odds of being a decent human go up. The whole thing doesn't make any fucking sense. None at all. It's stupid. So yes, I'm anti-stupid.
You know, life's a bad thing. However, I was just watching. I
was watching something else, and I thought. Barry.
One of his WTF videos, and you know, it's just.
Well, they're the only real videos I make now on this channel. There's very few others. I mean, I am going to try to make more videos once the crappy, evil crud season shows up. Then I'll have more time for such things, probably. Do have a lot of things to do here still. Gotta fix and remodel and blah blah blah. Really hate doing stuff like that. I just don't like working on. I mean, you know, I'm just so caught up in the being a thinker now. I just don't like laboring. That's not even true. I like simple things. Give me something simple to do, so I don't have to. I don't want to think about it. It's like I had a night, you know, I had a kind of a lousy night's sleep, and I was having all these stupid dreams, and so I was having this dream about this house, and it had a bunch of bad wiring, and you know, I was trying to fix it, and so first off, it was everybody else's fault. You know, some other thing somebody had hooked up was shorting out, and it shorted out all the wiring, and so. But then it ended up being some little Chinese thing that I plugged in. You know, and it's like, oh, I was so depressed. Oh, fuck. My little Chinese thing caused this problem? Shit. So, you know, it was a fail video. Yeah, as a dream. I hate that.
Side of it, he was, you know, I'm working while I do it and stuff's going on, da 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 da.
Yes, exactly. You're a total distraction. You pay no attention to anybody's video who you've ever responded to. You can barely get their names right. You can, you know, years worth of context. Forget about having any knowledge of that. You'll call one guy, some other guy. Yeah. Not just reckless, sloppy, no attention to detail or arguments, and certainly no attention to the principle that if you concede, oh yeah, well that's probably right, you can't say the next day, oh no, that's probably wrong. Yeah, it's just bullshit. Wishy-washy, duplicitous.
But I caught one thing, which is he seemed to be talking to somebody. Now, I don't know what this other person's actual position is.
See, it's amazing. See, I don't know anything about it, but I have an opinion. I have a reaction to my lack of knowledge about the circumstance.
But he was talking like this person believed in, you know, the evil aliens or the reptile people, or that aliens might come and take us over.
No, this was a response to Stephen Hawking, a physicist, a guy who's supposed to be really, really smart, having this silly notion that if aliens were to show up, we should really worry about it because they're just going to come here to make hamburgers out of us. And it's, in my opinion, a ludicrously stupid argument that you could master the universe, even master keeping your own people from going insane while they're traveling the galaxy, you know, caught up in their little spaceship and all that stuff, that you can master all this stuff and you can't figure out that sentience is a valuable thing and that you can't just harm stuff without consequence, and that doesn't mean nothing. To cause harm is not a meaningless event. I mean, please. Oh, cockroaches are going to invent all of this technology to go through the universe just to be cockroaches. They won't have to advance above the knowledge of a cockroach to figure out to master the universe. It's a silly, it's irrational expectation. You can't be smart and think something so fucking stupid.
And Gary was Emmenham's other name. He was saying that that's ridiculous. That if a society, species had their shit together to be able to travel interstellar space.
Yes, I just mean they have to have their shit together enough where they made the New York City thing, they did the fuel thing, they did the greenhouse gas thing, they did all this stuff. They mastered technology in the sense they didn't nuke each other to death and all that other kind of crap. And you're saying they did all of that, they mastered all of that, and they didn't figure out that it's really dumb to go look at the universe and say, what looks like a hamburger? Where are the hamburgers? It's just so fucking pitiful. First, that you would think you have a right to go into the universe to exploit it is dumb. But to think that you have a right to go out there and overtly torture other feeling things. And you would assume they'd have to be feeling, because, you know, this whole intelligence thing really doesn't have any purpose if you don't feel. It's a reward and punishment mechanism again, you know. Otherwise, you're just going to be mechanically robotic in terms of your programs, and then you'll end up like Google. You'll end up like just a dumb search engine. You won't do anything creative. You'll just do mechanical yes-no answers. But even a yes-no device is going to figure out, well, sentience isn't brick. It's something different than brick. So I have to treat sentience different than brick. I mean, he's telling me that even an artificial intelligence can't figure that out. Can't figure out there's nothing different between a brick and something feeling. Yeah, I think so.
And take thousands of years to do it and everything. They obviously would not be like petty little idiots playing little high school politics games and stuff.
I don't think that was my point at all. My point was that they wouldn't be eating other sentient creatures. They wouldn't sit there and imprison them, torment them, and eat them. They wouldn't think that was a reasonable thing to do in the universe, is to eat the other aliens.
They'd be enlightened. Which made me realize...
So, again, they wouldn't be enlightened by any rational definition. They would be not eating their own poo. I mean, that's how much intelligence it takes, pretty much, right? We're just pretty much saying that the intelligence it takes to figure out that I shouldn't go whack a rabbit over the head and peel his skin off and chow down. It isn't much more intelligence than it takes to figure out maybe I shouldn't take a shit in the drinking bucket. Yeah, maybe.
Realize on the whole antinatalism thing that Emmenham thinks that if the human species, lasts another 10,000 years.
No, so again, just completely poorly premised. What do I think the human species is going to do? Do I think the human species is going to go into space and do all of that crap? No. I know the physics is impossible, so I know that's not going to happen anyway, and there's nothing out there to eat anyway. But even if there were, and even if we could, and even if we did eventually go out into space, well, I can't even say we would. We're not going to survive. The human beings haven't figured out that violence isn't the answer to a problem. And we're getting less and less organized in terms of being under the same curtain of identity. We're diverse. This diversity that you assholes love so much, well, it's going to ruin you, okay? Because everybody has their own house, okay? And I see it right here. I'm living right in it right now, okay? The language barrier is it's stupid, and nobody's doing anything to fix it. I mean, there is no real obligation for everybody to speak one language in this country anymore, and that's just hugely dangerous.
At all, that we will of necessity become enlightened, and that's a...
Yes, well, we will not of necessity. What I'm saying is that logic and reasoning will win in the end. But to get to the end, to get to the final stair on the staircase, to go whatever, to advance logically through the steps of understanding, And once and like I said, the peak of enlightenment is understanding we're just addicts. And so if you don't make the addict, then there's none of this concern over the heroin anymore. I mean, it's irrelevant. The only value is us, and the only thing we can do is make a mess and clean up less than completely it. So even if we were to live perfect lives, that would mean we make a mess and we perfectly clean it up. But there's still a mess for a while, which is still a negative. It's a negative. The engine is negative, just as the universe is. It's a push universe. There's no real attraction. It's just a diverted repulsion. You're just being pushed into each other. You're not being pulled. So yeah, you're just not coming close to getting the argument. But as stated, to get up that staircase, there's all these stairs of where you have to be civilized enough to get to the next stair. And we're not civil. We're not even close. And we're not even doing the things that are necessary to protect the future. The future is a very dangerous place. Nanotechnology, all kinds of things that we're not even close to being ready for. And they're going to be like smallpox was in the past. It's going to be a real threat of it wiping out the civilization. Because we don't have the competence to have that power in the hands of a bunch of angry assholes.
Thing to live for. So QED, boom, argument over, finished.
Argument over, finished. So because I pointed out how, god damn, figuring out that it's not nice to hurt feeling things, is really rudimentary on the evolutionary staircase. Far from something called enlightenment. It's nursery school stuff. Try not to poo your pants. It's that low as an intellectual concept. And I just thought it was ludicrous that some scientist would think that people we would even in this democracy, as bad as it is, that the people we would send into space would be the type who are just going like Homer Simpson. Is there any aliens that look like donuts so I can, eat holes in them and dunk them in hot coffee? No, that's not who we'd send into space.
People were asking me if I talked about natalism anymore, and I guess I do.
Yeah, in a trivial, silly, stupid, recklessly sloppy, dumbass way. Thank you so much for your contribution to the conversation. You've so annihilated all the fucking rational arguments. So let's understand the context. Piro has done that. He's lived this incredibly reckless life. He took parenting superficially as an obligation. He'll rationalize that and say, I was giving my kids freedom. This freedom's cool. No, you're just lazy, okay? He was a pitiful role model. It's just overt. You don't make drunk videos when you got teenage kids. If you can't even understand that much, you're really a fucking dumbass. He's just the definition of glib, reckless, fuck risk, fuck any obligations I have. I can do whatever the worst human being, the lowest common denominator, whatever example they provide, I will follow. Okay, that's my liberty latitude. Okay, whatever the worst person is doing, I'm allowed to do what they're doing. Okay, if they're not in prison and they're doing it, then I can do it. And he didn't care about doing better than that. He's just a bird who lays eggs and shit. And is proud to do it. Because that's the obligation, because he's just a dumb bird. He can't do any better than that.
So sorry to have won the conversation.
No, I could win the conversation, but just pointing out the absolute fact that you haven't learned anything in your life. You completely failed, and you learned nothing from the failure. Absolutely nothing. Your arrogance and reckless led to tragedy, and you just couldn't give a shit. You're an amazingly glib fuck. And you're just so desperate to defend your pitiful failure and to make it into turn it into something not failure. You don't want it on your record. You don't want your permanent record stained by your grotesque failure. So you've rationalized some sort of horse shit that somehow makes it okay to be a colossal failure. You're a perfect example, almost perfect. I mean, it could have gone even worse, but I mean, it went so badly, the experiment. And here you are just glibly pretending, everything was fine. Everything, it's just part of life, circle of life and shit. I don't have any responsibility or accountability. No, I didn't make any problems. I didn't violate consent. Yeah, you did. All right, now so let's get back to that argument. Because it's, for anybody who is enlightened, has any kind of intelligence, it's a decisive argument. If you take concepts simply, you can't argue it. There's no counter argument for the fact that you have an obligation, if you're going to impose, to get consent. And if you're not going to get consent, you have to have some reason, some really good reason, to believe you're not going to fail. And therefore, I don't need to have consent. I don't need to have consent to give somebody $1 million. I don't have to have their consent. Because I'm not going to, there's just very little potential that giving somebody $1 million is a bad thing. Now, obviously, for some people, it'll ruin them. They'll just buy booze with $1 million or do something stupid. And it will, in fact, ruin their life to get $1 million. That will happen. But no one logically is going to say, you're just giving people potential. And giving people potential, giving them the ability to do a lot more, doesn't mean, the fact that they turn into shit doesn't mean you did something wrong. You didn't give them fire or radiation. You didn't give them something overtly potentially dangerous. You just gave them the ability to actualize their ambitions. And it's not like you gave them heroin. Some people do very well on heroin. It makes them creative and they're brilliant and they make a big pile of money. Now, it's a tiny percentage, but it's true. But it doesn't change the fact that we all know now it's much higher potential to do damage, and it is sort of impositional in the sense it's an addictive drug, so you don't get people addicted to heroin unless you're sure it's going to improve their existence, that it's all going to work out. It's for the best. Now, unless you can be sure of that, you have just no right to violate consent. It's just kind of obvious. But this glib asshole, the argument goes right over his head because he's a glib asshole. He doesn't understand how overt and obvious the imposition is. That when you're making babies, you're rolling risk dice, and they have skull and crossbone right on them. You can look at the face of the dice and see it's right on the dice. And they arrogantly just say, I don't care, because I'm cool. And I don't like skeletons, so they won't show up when I roll the dice, because I have superpowers. Or some bullshit rationalization that says it's okay for me to roll two skull heads and fuck somebody over. Create a bad destiny with my decision to roll dice that didn't need to be rolled. I needed to roll them. That's all you can say. Oh, I'm selfish. I want to control the world by having my spawn, become Adolf Hitler. What was your ambition? What's your expectation? Your expectation was to assign a risk, and you just couldn't give a shit. That's it. You're selfish. You suck. You're unenlightened. You're an impositional. You're some asshole who would go into the universe and make hamburgers out of things. Because it suits you. It suits your desire. You hungry, you take. And that's all you're doing with this whole bullshit pro-life crap. You're just saying, I'll take. I'll impose the risk. I'll impose the pain and the suffering. on certain individuals, and fuck them. They don't have any say in the matter. Fuck you. It's just so overt an imposition. A rude, obnoxious, arrogant imposition. And for what? No God is telling you you have to do it. So just own up to the fact that you believe in God. And say, God made me do it. God says I have to. God says it's our obligation. Quit playing this game. Okay, that there's some rational, that you did something for some rational reason. You did nothing for a rational reason. You did stuff for selfish reasons, and that's it. Just selfish, self-interested reasons in the and reasons in a brain that was a glib, reckless asshole. So properly define who you are, what you've done with your existence. Quit pretending that you did some search for the truth. You weren't searching for the truth. You're searching for rationalizations that make your deluded, silly, kindergarten, Barney the Dinosaur philosophy that validated. And that's it. You're looking to validate your horse shit with any kind of string of bullshit that isn't evidence. It just, you can pull on it and you can make it look like it. You can reshape dog do into something that looks like a hamburger patty. Doesn't change what it is. That's all you're doing. You're making shit. You're making shit burgers and feeding them to people. That's all you're doing. Feeding people shit. Shitty rationalizations. Shitty horse shit that you just made up. Alright? And you're just totally unobedient to any kind of truth. You haven't died yet, and yet you're telling me it's worth it. Dying's okay. Says me. The guy who never did it. Yeah, fuck you.
Because now what are you going to talk about?
Yeah, funny. Ha ha ha. Yeah, you really decisively won the argument. Bullshit. You just did what you usually do. You made your glib, stupid, ignorant, sloppy, incomplete, crap argument. Wow. So impressed. Not. Oh. Well, enough of that. Yeah. Enough of that. Fine. Alright. Anyway. It's really irritating. Being on this planet. Okay. So, where are we now? So consent is just all trapped in this sexual thing. Consent, respect. Yeah, see, there you could just say there's the word, right? And what is respect? Respect is acknowledgement of the truth, what something is. You can't respect something if you've converted into something it's not. So I wouldn't say somebody who's misparaphrasing me is respecting me at all, right? That's disrespect. And the truth is just being ignored. So the very fact that we know that life is risk, you know that your baby can be born with all kinds of horrible liabilities that you wouldn't voluntarily endure, and you know it. You know you wouldn't, oh yeah, I'd voluntarily be born without any arms and legs. I'd volunteer to live that life. You're a liar. Okay, you're a liar. It's just plain, come on. Bullshit you would. Bullshit, you're sitting on a comfy couch and now you're going to go do 30 hard years without any arms and legs. Come on, get real. Or one of those, there's more insidious diseases, I mean, as bad as that is, that's really not the worst you can have. The worst you can have is when you're allergic to your own skin and shit, and, these things that are just horrible pain every fucking goddamn day. Where you'll never know any of those little magic moments of life. Your only magic moment will be, well, I had one day where the pain wasn't insanely bad. Yeah, and that'll be a good day. And that's the crap they impose every fucking day. They impose, all of it exists because these assholes make it exist. The Puros make it all exist. he talked about in some video the Palestinians and how badly they're living. Well, first, they're living that way because their population went from 300,000 or whatever 15 years ago to 6 million or something. You know, so they're obviously paying no attention to the fact that the nest they're laying their eggs in is a shithole. They're basically, it's like slaves having a bunch of kids. You know, what's their plan? You know, for their kids. Oh yeah, it's really cool being a slave. And it'll be even worse because there's the plantation owner isn't going to make more buildings and he isn't going to give us more shit. There's just going to be more people. We'll have to put the beds on the on the roof, you know, like solar panels or something. Yeah, there's no practicality, no reasonableness, no. We're in shit and we'll just make more shit. You know, and totally illogical. Now, obviously, Israel's responsible in the sense that it decided to take control. And so again, if you're going to take control, that is, you're going to have kids, you're going to make, you know, you're going to impose yourself, you have to do it right. And if you're doing it wrong, somebody can point their finger and say you're doing it wrong. You know, you're violating your obligation. So again, if you want to have kids, then you have to figure out, well, I can't do this horse shit where I, you know, do as I say, not as I do. That's just that lie. I mean, any idiot could figure out just from being a kid once, well, that's bullshit. That ain't gonna work on a kid. You know, but deluded loonies like Piro think, oh yeah, I could just tell my kids some story about living a life where you realize your potential and you do all this other shit. But I'm going to spend half my life in a bottle. Yeah. And that'll prove it to them. How it's good to be diligent and pay attention and don't fuck yourself. You know, don't fuck your future opportunities. He didn't pay any attention to any of that kind of stuff. You know, too much work. He didn't want the job. He didn't want the job. He just wanted whatever the benefit was, which, again, I'm clueless to what kind of mush goes through people's heads in terms of, oh, I have such cool genetic code. You know, I need to make a little mini-me. You know, it's the mini-me thing, I guess. But the problem with that is that where did you get the idea that it works that way? I mean, if I could guess, it could be guaranteed I'm going to pop out of, you know, a really cool version of me, a young version of me is going to pop out of the vagina. Oh, I might be seducible, maybe, into thinking it might be a good idea because, yeah, I'm just so cool. But I know that's not what's going to pop out. You know, it's not going to be, it's going to look like a cousin of mine or something. It's not going to look like me. It's not going to be me. It's going to be some kind of, you know, perversion of it. Some, you know, horrid distortion. You know, and the odds are it can be a lot worse. You know, in a lot worse shape. I mean, it could be one of these drawings. I don't know why ugly drawings are popular. You know, really horrible drawings. It seems, you know, it must be a handy-capable thing or something. I mean, everybody is now allowed to do every job there is in a handy-capable way. You know, let's just do the lazy, retarded version. You know, fuck that doing it right thing. So this consent page isn't very interesting. These aren't like, these memes don't just yell out at you, oh yeah, that's consent. There's no like drawing straws, and there's no, you know, like it's another, you need sort of an analogy. Consent to throw somebody on a tightrope and give them a silly umbrella and say good luck. That's what having kids is. Even when my parents did it, it wasn't any kind of sure thing. You know, I mean, it was a lot better in the sense that you had some hope you could get a reasonable job and be able to, you know, have a life, you know, that you could afford to have a house and a car and a chicken in your pot and all that bullshit. And now you don't even have that expectation because most people will end up making $10 an hour, you know, or less. It's an exploitation economy. And unless you've given your spawn some, unless you have a big insurance policy for them to protect them from the reality, they're going to be a wage slave. That's the likelihood. So way to go, assholes. Way to go. Sentence somebody to being a wage slave. You see it here. These are people that did the upwardly mobile thing. That is, they got a government job with a ridiculously great benefits and pension, and got way overpaid, and they think, yeah, that's what my kids will be doing. And you see it. Their kids aren't doing that shit. They're dropping out of college. They drop out of vocational schools. I mean, they want to play video games. They don't want to go to work. So and then they'll have another kid, right? These are people doing it when they already have like a teenage kid who's already failing, and then they end up having another baby. I mean, they're already watching themselves fail, and they'll have another kid. Yeah. Too stupid just doesn't cover it. There's got to be a better word for it. I mean, too evil. I mean, these are the this is as bad as aliens who want to make you into a hamburger. They're just so clueless. They haven't caught on to what their job here on Earth is at all. So again, the simple point is, anybody decent knows I have to ask permission before I impose. Before I impose wage slavery on my kid, or some disease, or migraine headaches, or whatever it's going to be, I should ask them and say, is it okay? Do you want to play in this shit-filled sandbox? Do you want to pick up lumps of sand and say, oh, shit? If not, okay, I'll respect that. Okay, we can't ask the question. We can't get consent. Well, what's your obligation? When you can't get consent, what's the obligation? Well, the obligation is, I'm sure it's good for you. I'm sure you will like what I'm going to give you. I'm going to give you a meal so fucking good, you can't possibly throw up. Not possible. And are any of these people doing that? Are any of these ignorant masses doing that? The Piro defends all these ignorant douchebags having way too many kids. Are any of these assholes spending any time at all contemplating their responsibility to make sure they don't fail? Are they even trying not to fail? No, they're not even trying, because as I point out, they'll watch the failure right in front of themselves and do it all over again. And Piro's the same kind of asshole. He failed colossally, and in a video he sort of implied, oh yeah, I could have another kid, it wouldn't be... He would do it again. And he defends people doing it with no better reasoning skills than his. Basically saying, yes, go ahead, do as I did. It's okay. Failure's okay. It's not like somebody got hurt. I mean, so bad. So bad. I wish there was something in here. I mean, none of this even comes close to catching your eye. Show more results. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with this, the idea of your gift having to be something good. Okay, you just can't be any other way. If you're going to rape the woman, you have to be sure she's going to like it. It's just that simple. And if you don't have any reason to believe she's going to be better off for the experience, you just can't do it. I mean, you can't do it even if you have some stupid reason. You know what I'm saying? You got to be sure that you're really functioning well and that your intelligence knows, oh yeah, no, this plan cannot possibly fail. As Clouseau would say, you have to have a plan that cannot possibly fail. Yeah. What kind of plan? A plan that cannot possibly fail. Yeah, I mean, this is Clouseauian. I mean, Pirot's a Clouseau. Fuck. Yeah. Anyway. I take a little break and see if there's something to sum up with and such. Yeah. That's what I'll do. Yeah, I'm back. Just want to point out, I go running in the morning and it's really humid, so my hair looks like shit. because it's full of cruddy sweat and shit. Anyway, just thought you should know. Part of my responsibility is to let you know you're watching a sweaty person video or something like that. Anyway, consent is so frat. Sorry, don't know what that means. I mean, these are just so bad. We just had mind-blowing consent. Yeah. Oh, power, consent. Isn't it? Yeah. You see, I mean, they're making it into some sort of miracle. Oh, you realize that things should be mutual. You shouldn't blow your nose in other people's faces. Oh, you figured that out. Oh, you're so smart, you people are. Wildcats get consent. Yes, lots of organisms have to get consent, but they don't get consent at all for doing the baby thing, but it's not their fault. See, unlike Pyrrho, animals have an excuse where they don't know that that's the consequence of sex. So, they have an excuse. No, just the fact. Let's see if there's something. Eat, breathe, thrive. So you could just change that to get eaten, get suffocated, and die. And that's what life is going to do. It's gonna grind you up. It's gonna kill you. It's gonna murder you, frankly. You're going to be a victim in the end. Understanding consent and sexual violence. Understanding consent and optimism violence. Reckless violence. Selfish violence. You could replace these words and understand that your own ambitions is the danger you pose to other people. Are your ambitions, because your ambitions aren't to make their lawns greener. You want to take the fertilizer from theirs and put it on yours. You want to, well, that's a tricky bit of words. It's just, another bad drawing. Very bad. Whatever. A kilt is not an invitation, so that's funny. Oh, look, you shouldn't make people cry. Oh. I'm just saying, right. Yeah, that's enlightenment. Figuring that out. You're enlightened now. But you figured out it's not nice to make things cry. Jesus fucking Christ. Oh, so bad. Again, these are just anyone with a little bit of intellectual integrity would have to concede the facts are against it. Okay, I mean, we know where we came from. We're fish. Okay, if you want to say like our abiogenesis without the getting into the chemistry part, or as a land creature, the abiogenesis of being a land creature was being a fish. And that was the fish turned its little fins into legs, and that's our ancestor. Your genetic code goes back to some thing that had fins. Okay, that's what your hands are. Okay, it had fins. That's what you are. This little robotic machine that eats and shits and breeds and dies. And that's exactly what you're doing. Except you're coming up with this whole fake bullshit story that that all makes sense. That it makes sense to be chased and have pieces bitten off of you and have your eye poked out and I survived having my eye poked out. Fuck you. I mean, it's just so fucking stupid and so retarded. This whole function is so dysfunctional. And all it is an endorsement of addiction. And these are usually, like I said, you can always just scrape at most of these optimists, and they're only optimists because they're mostly alcoholic or drug addicts or some other kind of bullshit. There's some crap that has deluded them into thinking they're winners when they're fucking retards. So, anyway, I think I've covered the subject. Like I said, there's just no way to get around it. So even if there's no, the idea of saying, well, I can't get consent from her egg and my sperm, doesn't matter. Then you have to be sure that you're doing the right thing. And how the fuck, what are you using as reasoning to say you're sure it's going to be okay? You're sure there's not going to be a deficit that has to be paid, that you're going to leave a deficit on the credit card that you're giving to your kid, that he's going to have to pay a bill, okay, that you had no right to impose on him. You didn't give him a gift, you gave him a liability. So it's just like just me going to a car dealership. I pick out a car for you, and I don't pay any money down, and I put the obligation in your pocket. What? Is that how you want to live? You want to live that way, where people are allowed to do that? They're just go into the showroom, pick out some car in the ugliest, worst color, everything you hate about a car, and they can just shove it in your pocket and say you got to pay for this? No, nobody would say that's okay. Nobody, the democracy wouldn't vote for that. They wouldn't vote for, you taking your neighbor's money and going to Las Vegas, and because you think you're going to be a winner and doing them a favor. I'm doing my kids a favor. Yeah, fuck you are. No, they wouldn't vote for that either. Because they know people don't have the control. They know they can't guarantee they're going to be winners. They know they have every reason to expect the loss because it's guaranteed. It's a statistical fact that this crap will happen. The statistics are all against you. It's just a fact. And, very few win the Olympic medal. Would you really want your kid? So that's another easy question, right? Because logically it doesn't make any sense. Would you really want your kid to be a gold medal seeker? Because don't you really realize that most of the people seeking the gold medal will have to go through some horrible failure? They'll have to endure complete failure. That very few will win? Is that what you'd want? No. So there's no rationality to this argument at all. They're just defending superficial, trivial, emotional memes that have nothing to do with using or applying intelligence. And so Pyrrho is just an icon for simpleton, emotional retard. And that's the funny, the ironic part is that he is emotionally retarded. So it's not even like the argument from an emotion might be okay if that emotion had some thought to it. But his are context by glib fantasies about how, he's living his spirit life or something. Just retarded nonsense as rationalizations. All right. So, enough. Yeah, I think so. So, till next time, I'm just trying to think of, how you logically order this argument. It's like, even Benatar sort of failed, in my opinion, in putting the argument in the right logical order. Because he kind of went from like the asymmetry to the optimism bias argument, and then just kind of drifted into a bunch of mushy directions. So figuring out where the first principles are, I think the first principle has to be the argument from imposition. And then all you're doing is saying, why do you have a right to impose? Why do you have a right to say, again, we're going to go to Disneyland, but one of you, or maybe two of you out of the group that are going to Disneyland, are going to ride in the trunk. And when we get to Disneyland, we're going to poison you. And then there's going to be some sort of castle tragedy. And you'll be prematurely snuffed. And it's okay, because the rest of us are going to have a good time. Just explain how that's rational. that you'd vote for that as the way people behave. That you get to just pull straws, and you know the straw has a little skeleton on it, and you just put them in people's pockets. And you think you have a right to do that. I mean, how can the argument get any simpler than that? Where did you derive that right from? Besides saying something stupid like, I'm the genetic lineage of a fish or a cockroach, so of course I do fish things. I'm a shark, you see. I don't know any better. Is that really going to be your argument? You don't know any better? You know, that's it? That's the best you can do? So if you were a Tyrannosaurus, you could just never drink tea with your pinky out, you know. You could never, you know, you can never rise above your station, you know. Because having a big brain doesn't mean anything. It's just there to rationalize everything into a donut. Okay. Some sort of excuse to be a selfish cunt. Period. Alright. So, till the next time. And such. Bro sucks. It's just a stupid, ignorant, glib, trivial fuck. Doesn't take anything seriously. Ugh. Right. Did I point out he sucks? Yeah, Barrow sucks.